The criminal who commits fraud could look as trustworthy as your most valued customer. The credit card thief doesn't need to do business with you at all to victimize you. The hacker can work anywhere, even from home, when he robs you and your customer. The crime of fraud is so subtle, it seems like it's none of your business, but it is. Hello, I'm Mark Walters. When Discover Network asked me to speak to you about fraud, I said, great, I know all about it. I'm an actor. I steal identities for a living. The difference is, mine's an honest living. Unfortunately, there are lots of dishonest people going about the unlawful business of credit card fraud. Ever since the first bank card was created about 50 years ago, consumers have appreciated its convenience, its credit capability, and its safety. Paying with plastic means not having to carry as much cash around. And while credit cards still provide the same convenience and deferred payments as they always have, there are risks we need to be aware of. Sure, people who use credit cards keep less cash on them, but today's thief is after the card itself and the information contained on it. These days, the fraudster uses a variety of ways to acquire, falsify, or steal credit cards and data. One form of fraud is counterfeiting, creating a fake card. Nowadays, a crook can easily download software that can generate a valid account number. A current twist on counterfeiting is skimming. That's where the thief will use a small scanning device that can record the data contained on the stripe on the back of the card. It can record and retain data from numerous cards. A good deal of fraud continues to come from cards that are either stolen or lost. One low-tech approach is dumpster diving, scavenging for discarded charge receipts and then using the printed account number to rack up purchases. Although less common now than in the past, dumpster diving still occurs. And the internet is just as popular with thieves as it is with the general public. Electronic commerce allows the fraudster an extra measure of invisibility. In fact, internet fraud has been estimated to be 12 times higher than fraud committed in regular brick-and-mortar stores. That said, mail order and phone order credit card fraud are still far too common. Computer hackers use their techno skills to gain access to companies' data networks, stealing customer account numbers and other private information. Another component to fraud that occurs is called sequencing. Computer programs called credit card generators are used to create thousands of potentially valid account numbers. And the most alarming trend in credit card fraud is identity theft, stealing several elements of an individual's personal information in order to assume their identity. The fraudster will then apply for credit in someone else's name or assume ownership of their existing accounts. Independent research has shown that over the internet, 1 out of every 12 online shoppers has fallen prey to identity theft. Card fraud is big, bad business, costing billions of dollars a year in lost revenue. Like an infectious virus, it hits and then spreads, affecting card issuers, customers, merchants, and financial institutions. And being on the front lines in the battle against fraud, merchants are most often hit first and hit hard. Whether you're a store owner renting retail space or a .com merchant in cyberspace, credit card fraud demands your close and constant attention. Some of the losses that businesses incur from fraud are obvious, like the cost of goods stolen and chargeback fees. Then there are other losses that don't easily show up, but definitely add up, like the labor required to retrace and research fraud chargebacks, and product shipping and handling. Also, consider the impact of fraud on consumers' attitudes. There's a growing unease throughout the buying public regarding the safety and privacy of personal information. In one independent survey, 95% of Americans asked said they were somewhat or very concerned about privacy and security when using their credit cards. Customers today do not readily trust the marketplace as they once did. So, fraud has a way of eroding consumers' trust, which in turn cuts right into revenues. And merchants are just as nervous. In their efforts to beat crime, they've actually refused more than $1 billion in sales that, for one reason or another, raised a red flag, but in fact were completely legitimate. And that's one of the reasons for this program. Whether you do business in a card-present or card-not-present environment, we'll show you just what to look for so you can make sound judgments when handling credit card transactions. As long as there's been commerce, we've had to contend with fraud. It just changes along with the times. New technology is developed to strengthen security, only to be countered by unscrupulous individuals with the time and knowledge to render the latest deterrent obsolete. The best weapon against fraud, the one crooks really can't beat, is your own awareness. By staying alert, recognizing the warning signs, and then taking the appropriate steps, you can make a real difference and put the criminals out of business, yours and theirs. I'm Mark Walters for Discover Network.